Hello everyone, Ace here, and today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit more sobering, but I do believe this does need to be discussed. As in the wake of the recent tragedies that have struck both El Paso and Dayton yesterday, leftist news publication SLATE has decided that Gamergate is at least responsible for the El Paso incident specifically, as we discover in this recently published article by Evan Urquhart, and it's simply titled, "Republicans are missing the real connection between video games and mass shootings. It's Gamergate." Now before we go any further, I do believe it's worthwhile to mention that I don't actually believe that any of the mainstream answers to the problem of mass shootings are actually the answers to the problem. For as far as I can tell, they seem more interested in merely treating the symptoms than actually curing the underlying issues at play here. So in other words, I don't agree with any of the mainstream proposals that get laid out when one of these tragedies do happen. But enough of that, let's talk a little bit more about the article. As you've probably guessed, SLATE's big argument is that back in 2014, many Gamergaters moved over to 8chan. And because SLATE believes that Gamergate itself was a highly bigoted far-right movement, it meant that 8chan itself would of course ultimately become an extremist website in its own right. Of course, the first major flaw in this particular argument is the fact that Gamergate itself was not an inherently bigoted or far-right movement. In fact, political compass tests of the Gamergate supporters themselves showed that it was actually a left-leaning libertarian movement, if anything. The simple reality is that the Gamergate movement itself was the direct result of many years of corruption within the game journalist community, and many scandals resulting from that said corruption, such as Dorito-gate in 2012 or the firing of Jeff Gerstmann over his review of Kane and Lynch Dog Days in 2007. Needless to say, by the time of Gamergate, there was some very real hostility bubbling to the surface between gamers and the game journalists themselves. And let's not forget that while Gamergate did indeed have some very serious allegations made against it, so much so that the FBI got involved, it ultimately resulted in the FBI clearing them of all wrongdoing. And in an ironic twist, it was actually discovered earlier this year that some of the things that Gamergate had been accused of was actually perpetrated by some of the anti-Gamergate journalists themselves, who ran harassment groups at the time, such as Law League. For those of you who are curious, I did actually make a video on this subject matter, and I will be providing a link to that video in the description below and at the end of this video. But moving on, it's quite easy to see that when you actually analyze the real history behind Gamergate and what Gamergate actually was, that the arguments made by SLATE here completely fall apart. So basically what I'm saying is not only are the Republicans that want video games to be regulated wrong here, but so is SLATE for suggesting that Gamergate itself is somehow responsible. The simple truth of the matter is that neither of these things are responsible for what happened at El Paso. At the end of the day, I do of course hope that the underlying factors that create the El Pasos and Daytons of our current age are brought to light. However, this is not the way forward. Now, for those of you who want to see the article in full, I will of course be providing links to the archive of it in the description below. And I'm also going to try to find something that happens to be a little bit less grim and a little bit more cheerful in the world of video games for you all. In any case, this has been Ace. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Ace out.